Thank you, that's from ministry. I'd like to take a quick minute to thank Jay Schwartz, particularly his running Secret Cinema, for showing my absolute favorite film of all time, How to Give a T. Now you ornery fuckers know how to give a T. And I would like to thank the Tough Shits, particularly for playing She Kisses on the Mouth. And I would like to thank Live Not on Evil for being great and playing Scary Polka. And I would particularly like to thank the dancers from Live Not on Evil for reminding us why this is the greatest country on earth. Halloween is on a Saturday! We wait and we wait and we wait. My wife and I got to watch, we watched it the other day. I always tell people to do this. If you missed it this year, the 2 days before Halloween, watch the 700 Club. Because what we think is Halloween and what they think is Halloween, two different Halloweens. We see Halloween as a chance to get drunk, dress up, and get laid. They see Halloween as all of us dressing up, getting drunk, and getting laid. Somebody here ever heard of Frank the Body Snatcher? I want him to be posthumously nominated for a Nobel Prize for Medicine. Frank the Body Snatcher was a body snatcher in the 1800s in Baltimore, and he was a very clever, very innovative guy. They saved her. He thought of the idea that you don't have to bust a coffin all the way open to get the corpse out. All you have to do is bust the top half open and then take a grappling hook and put it right under the jaw and just lift the body up. Frank was an innovator. Frank used to pickle the bodies. He would sell these bodies to Johns Hopkins for medical research. And Frank used to pickle the bodies in like booze. And then after he would sell the bodies, he would then sell the booze to the medical students. And I lived down on Hutchinson Street where the medical students live. They haven't changed since then. So I want to try an experiment. And if it fails, well, we gave it a try. But I want to do a horror story, because to me that's Halloween is people sitting and reading horror stories to each other, and I love horror stories. And I wanted to have a horror story about a body snatcher. So the only one I can think of was Robert Louis Stevenson's. I get accused of being didactic, but Robert Louis Stevenson's The Body Snatcher is a really great horror story. And I wanted to read it to you, but I found out it's not in the public domain, so I had to write my own horror story. So hopefully I'll have enough light here and I'll be fine. I trust that I will. This is called Brockman Takes the Wheel. And the only thing you need to know about it is, I don't know if you ever heard of Hervé Villachez. The Hervé Villachez is a little guy on Fantasy Island, and Ricardo Montalban played his boss. That's all you need to know. Hervé Villachez was a little actor, and Ricardo Montalban played his boss. So this is called Brockman Takes the Wheel. Everybody get comfortable. I hope you like it. This is from a collection of my short horror stories that will never be published, because one of the stories is called The Diary of Anne Frankenstein. I'm an ass, I know. Okay, so. Oh, two best costumes tonight. I like the guy dressed like Hunter S. Thompson, and I particularly want to thank this young lady for dressing like Mila Jovovich from The Fifth Element. For reasons I really can't go into, but I like Mila Jovovich in that film a lot. First of all, I would just like to state that it was not my idea to dig up the body of the late diminutive actor Hervé Villachez. That was Brockman's idea. I was merely being a good friend. Before you judge me, try to imagine yourself in my place. A friend kindly gives you a ride home from the airport. A few weeks later, that same friend appears on your doorstep at 2 o'clock in the morning, holding a case of beer under one arm and a shovel under the other. He asks you for your assistance in a small task. Would you say no? If being a good friend is a crime, then I stand convicted. Yes, I am well aware that grave robbery is indeed a crime, but it was never our intention to steal Mr. Villachez's body. We only wished to borrow it. Had we not been curtailed in our adventure, Mr. Villachez's body would be right back in the grave and no one would be the wiser. And there'd be no hurt feelings either. His arms? Well, yes, that was very unfortunate. But please rest assured that both Brockman and I plan to go back and look for the right arm as once there was sufficient light. I mean, how many tiny arms could there be just littering up Interstate 5? As I'm sure you're well aware, we have the left arm, and to be quite frank, how did his arms come off? Well, you see, when we tied the body to the grill of Brockman's car, okay, I can see I better back up a bit. You see, when we liberated Mr. Villachez, we discovered two things. The first was that he was stiff as a board. The second thing we discovered that was Mr. Villachez had a, how shall I put this? A very definite bouquet. This should not by no means be taken as a reflection upon the late Mr. Villachez's personal hygiene. I'm sure that despite being French, he was quite fastidious in life. You see, the thing was that Brockman worked very hard for that car, and he wasn't about to risk befouling its interior, or even its trunk. And that's why we tied the body to the grill. I mean, what would you have done? Okay, I'm getting to the arms. See, Brockman tends to have a heavy foot, if you know what I mean. You don't know what I mean? Well, he tends to drive a tad too fast. Mind you, I've spoken to him about it on several occasions, and he has gotten better. Yes, the arms. Okay, we were going about 90 miles an hour down Interstate 5 when, where was I? Oh yes, down Interstate 5, when Hervé's arms started to move. I'm sure that you can imagine our surprise. When we tied him to the grill with jumper cables, those arms seemed like they were glued to his sides. I guess all that was needed was a little wind, and going 90 miles an hour, as I see in retrospect, will generate more than a little wind. Well, all that was needed was a little wind to snap Mr. Villachez's shoulder blades. Why didn't we pull over right away? I assure you that we would have, had not the song YMCA been playing on the radio. I am not making this up. I swear, Mr. Villachez's arms were flapping out the letters YMCA. To be honest, they only spelled out the letters Y, M, and C before the right arm tore off, smashed against the windshield, and was gone. Fortunately, my window was rolled down, so a few seconds later, when the left arm came off, it flew in my window and landed on the back seat. Oh, I can smile about it now, but at the time, okay, I'm getting to that. Well, the arms thing put the kibosh on our original plan, which was to use Mr. Villachez's corpse to bring a little happiness and joy into the world. How? Well, we were planning on rigging him up like a ventriloquist dummy. Yeah, that explains the wires through the cheeks, and visiting children's wards at various hospitals. Those kids could use a little cheering up, but once his arms were torn off, we didn't think he would be appropriate entertainment for young people. Ricardo Montalban? Yes, I feel terrible about that. That too was Brockman's idea. You see, once the plan to visit the sick children was dashed, we drove around for about an hour trying to figure out what to do with Mr. Villachez. It seemed a little too early in the adventure to return him. I was about to suggest that we stop at Denny's because they're always open, and to be quite honest, digging up a body is very hungry work. But then Brockman asked me to dig around in his glove compartment for one of those Max the Movie Stars homes that he bought about a year ago. When I asked him why, he said it was a surprise. I had no idea at the time it was not me Brockman was planning on surprising. We pulled to the side of the road and Brockman studied the map for a few minutes, then he clapped his hands and he peeled back onto the highway. About a half an hour later, I was sitting in the car when Brockman tossed Hervé's body over a high wall. Then Brockman climbed over the wall. So anyway, I'm just sitting in the car, and all of a sudden I hear a doorbell ring. And then about 30 seconds later, I hear Brockman's voice saying, "Hey boss, they're playing!" This was followed by the most horrible scream I've ever heard. Please tell Mr. Montalban that I am terribly sorry about all that. Brockman's sense of humor can time from time get a little out of hand. Well, guess there's not much more to tell. Mr. Villachez's body came back over the wall. Brockman came back over the wall. Then Brockman tied Hervé back to the grill of the car, and off we sped. We were only on the road for about 15 minutes when we saw the flashing lights of the police car in the rearview mirror. Now, I am not one to police, God knows they do a tough enough job for very little pay. However, the arresting officer asked us why we had a dead midget tied to the grill of our car. They prefer to be called little people. I, for one, find that sort of insensitivity very off-putting. Thank you, that was tonight's ghost story.